One. We are live. Believe it or not, we are live.
I hope so.
Okay. Ivor, do you want to move over? Because then like if I'm looking, I don't know if you can see me properly, so I might make it easier. Can you see me okay? Okay, so then that's fine.
He's watching on his phone.
He's watching on his phone. You're laughing. We had that already when we did this live in there, and Phil Morrison's on his phone, and Ian Creek is on his phone. Pardon?
I couldn't find last week.
Couldn't find last week's?
No. Yeah.
It's on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can choose.
Well, I looked.
I guess you didn't look right.
What did
I'll send it to you.
On YouTube.
Pardon?
What's it on?
On YouTube, you put in David Eisenberg, and you'll find my face, and you'll find my channel, and we will go from there. Okay, gentlemen, we have an interesting Parasha this week. Parashas Vayishlach. In Parashas Vayishlach, yeah, do we have it?
Yeah,
Okay, if you are in the Art Scroll Chumash on page, Alan.
170. Start.
See, I told you Alan always knows the page. Remember that one, Alan? Yes. Yeah, Alan knows it. Just an old one but a good one, right? An oldie but a goodie. Do you remember that, Roger? Were you part of the show at the time? Alan always knows the page. Do you remember that
I
one?
know that from.
Yeah, remember that from last time.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. And Stephen's with us tonight also. Right. Okay, we're going to speak about Vayishlach. Vayishlach is an interesting parsha, and one of the things that makes Vayishlach interesting is the introduction of the Ramban, the introduction of Nachmanides to the parsha, in which he speaks about there were times throughout Jewish history where we as the Jewish people have struggled with other nations, and he discusses the way we go about things, the way we feel that we should or should not try to interact with, with the non-Jews when we're in trouble. So the Ramban starts off by saying, this parsha was written to tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved Yaakov Avinu from someone who was stronger, and he sent an angel actually to save him. And then he moves on to something very important, and this is the first point that I'm going to make. And that is, Yaakov Avinu did not rely on his strength or on his righteousness. This is a very important point. Yaakov Avinu did not feel in any way that he was more righteous than thou or stronger. Yaakov Avinu could have sat back and said, you know what? I am Yaakov. I'm the tzaddik. You know who's coming to destroy me? You know who's coming to fight with me? Esav. I mean, what chance does a Rasha like Esav stand against me, the tzaddik? Probably none. The answer is Yaakov didn't say that. Yaakov couldn't say that. It would be wrong for Yaakov to turn on to feel himself superior. So much so, there's actually an interesting piece in the Chovas HaLevavos. I think we've done the Chovas HaLevavos a little bit sometimes, Leon. That is known as the duties of the heart. It's a seven known as the duties of the heart. And within it, it discusses different mitzvahs that have to do with the mind as opposed to physical action. So you can have a mitzvah like tzitzis. You can have a mitzvah like tefillin. You put on your tzitzis. You tie your tefillin. You put a mezuzah to your door. Those are mitzvahs that are physical mitzvahs. But then there are mitzvahs that have to do also with the mind and the heart, such as believing in God, teshuvah. Shmuley, come on in. Good evening, Shmuley. Please come have a seat. Okay? So there are certain mitzvahs that have to do with the mind, right? Like trusting Hashem, like loving Hashem, like teshuvah, like having humility and not becoming too arrogant, like believing in Hashem.
A tzaddik will never. A tzaddik be thought of himself as above everybody else.
Well, no, he's not. But at this point, he's not thinking. He's thinking of himself above Esav. So it's not such a crazy thing of him to think of himself above Esav. For Yaakov was a very big tzaddik, and I think Yaakov realized that he wasn't nobody, and it wouldn't be crazy to think that he was. No, he doesn't have an ego. It's not coming from an ego, but he would. So he said, but what he's trying to say is that even if we don't work with an ego, but we'll still say, well, look, Yaakov Avinu, in the end of the day, feels Esav is the Rasha. I'm at least more righteous than Esav is. God's probably going to, if we have a choice, if God had a choice, who's going to win? I would hope He would put the choice on my side. Okay. However, when it comes to bitachon, so in this Chovas HaLevavos, in the Sefer that we're speaking about, that speaks about the mitzvahs of the mind and mitzvahs of the heart, one of the chapters is known as Shar Bitachon, the chapter about trust in Hashem. And there he says, well, if we trust in Hashem, And if we say that everything Hashem does, Hashem knows exactly what we're going to do, and if it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. If it's not meant to happen, then it's not meant to happen. Can I act recklessly? Right? So let's go. Let's come out of here, shul, and I've decided I want to cross the road. You know I'm going to cross the road? I'm not even going to look. Why should I look? I trust in God. If something's meant to happen to me, then a car will hit me. And if nothing's meant to happen, I hope nobody crosses the road like that. Yeah? I hope nobody crosses. Even the biggest tzaddik in the world will not cross the road like that. And why is that? The reason for that is because you cannot put yourself into a situation of danger and expect God to pull you out of that situation. Just because you say, hey, God, come on, let's see what you got. You can pull me out of this. It's easy. You're God, right? He's not going to perform miracles just like that for you. Okay? And he brings a proof to it. I mean, we've got a good proof, but he brings a proof. He says that God told David HaMelech, God told King David to go and to do something specific. And King David says, it's very dangerous for me to do that because I'm going to be going past Shaul, King Saul. King Saul had a very big gripe with David HaMelech. He was very upset with David because he felt that David was trying to usurp his kingship. He was going to take his monarchy away from him. And you read, when we learned Navi, we read about it. We learned Shmuel. And when we learned Shmuel, we saw how King Shaul hounded David. He really, really hounded him. And the question over there was, well, if God says go do whatever it might be, so just go and do it. They said, well, no, it's dangerous. Well, God said you do it anyway, so why are you saying it's dangerous or not dangerous? The answer is, because even if God has commanded you to do something, you have no right to put yourself in danger when there is a route that does not involve that danger. If you can walk you can circumvent, you can walk around a circular way, then that's what you have to do. You can't go straight through the lion's den. And that's what Yaakov Avinu is doing over here as well. Yaakov Avinu says, I am not going to just say, well, look, God's for sure going to watch me. God's for sure going to take care of me. He might. I hope he will. But I can't turn around and say, I am Yaakov, and therefore I know God will take care of me as Yaakov, because I'm Yaakov. He needs the Jewish people. We need a Jacob. We need one of the forefathers. I mean, who needs Esau? Okay, so forget it. No, he didn't do that. Yaakov prepared himself. And he prepared himself in 3 ways, and these are 3 ways which we see that the Jewish people have always prepared themselves in any case of altercation with non-Jewish neighbors or enemies, etc., etc. There are 3 ways. Number 1, bribes. Yeah. Number 2, prayer. Number 3, fights. Okay? So bribe will go also with trying diplomacy. But those are 3 things: bribing, fighting, and praying. Well, any of them that make the most sense. There was no, hi Avril, there's no real order that's more correct or less correct, right? You have to see the situation. So for example, there was a fellow there's a famous story they tell with the Brisker Rav, a brilliant story. I find this very, very clever. There was a minister, I think in Brisk, I think they tell the story about the Brisker Rav. There was a minister in Brisk that was going to make a terrible decree against the Jews. And they came to the Rav, to the Brisker Rav, and they said, we're very, very worried because this minister is going to make a terrible decree against the Jewish people here in Brisk. He says, well, bribe him. In olden days, that was, especially in Russia, Lithuania, that was the norm. Pardon?
It still is.
It still is. It's true. It is true. Yeah. It is. In Eastern Europe, that's how it goes. In a lot of other places, they're not as rampant about and not as open about taking bribes. You take a bribe. Who do you think I am? It's 10,000 pounds. I'll take anything you want. You just got to offer the right price. In Russia, money talks like nothing, right? Unbelievable. It is. So they wanted a bribe, but this fellow seems to have been a very straight fellow, and he wouldn't take any bribes. And they were worried. Even just offering the guy a bribe might turn into a very, very dangerous thing, because you're going to say, are you trying to bribe me? Are you trying to take an officer of the Russian army and trying to offer him to go against his morals and his principles? How dare you? Yeah? So we didn't want to do that. So they came to the Rav and they said, look, we got to get rid of this. We know, if we can bribe him, we can get rid of it. So Brisker Rav said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go speak to him. I said, what's the Rav going to be able to do? Just leave it up to me. I will go speak to him. Fine. So the Rav goes in and he meets this minister and he starts talking with this minister again, the whole conversation. He says, it's in the middle of the summer. He says, I can feel it in my bones. Rain is coming. Tomorrow's going to be a thunderstorm. The guy looks at him, he goes, it's the middle of the summer. Rabbi, I thought you were intelligent. What are you talking about? There's not going to be a thunderstorm tomorrow. He goes, no, I can feel it. I know there's going to be this thunderstorm. He says, Rabbi, you're being ridiculous. What are you talking about? So he says, I am willing to bet you 10,000 rubles that it's going to hail and snow tomorrow. And the guy looks at him, he goes, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. You're going to bet, this is the rabbi of the Jews, is the guy that says so clever, you're going to bet 10,000 rubles in the middle of the summer that it's going to hail and snow? You're on. They shook hands on it. The rabbi comes back the next day wearing his heavy coat, and he walks inside, and the guy looks at him and he says, Rabbi, where's your rain? Where's your hail? Where's your snow? I think you've lost your bet, haven't you? And the rabbi said, well, I'm in my coat. I feel cold. He says, yeah, but look around. What was the bet? Rain, hail, snow. Look around. None of that. Pay up. 10,000 rubles. So Briskerov said, all right, I guess you win. I guess I was wrong. I was sure of it. Pulled out 10,000 rubles, gave it to the man. As he's walking away from the man, he said to him, by the way, about that decree that you mentioned, he says, don't worry about it. We'll get rid of it. Yeah? Clever, right? Yeah? The guy might not take a bribe, but money talks, right? And we all know over the years, money has, the Jews have had, sometimes forcibly, they've had to pay ransoms, very, very high sums to certain rulers, and sometimes it just got them out of trouble. They knew money would get them out of trouble. In the Middle Ages, the Jews constantly, they were having taxes levied against them, but constantly. Unfair taxes, crazy, crazy rates, crazy amounts of money. Well, the bottom line is, they paid the money, and things were okay. Yeah, even in the Holocaust.
Grandparents
yes,
that to be hidden.
And
to non-Jews.
And did those non-Jews, did they keep their promise of the non-Jews that they stayed by? Did they rat them out?
No.
Some people took the money and then they ratted them out anyway.
With them, they didn't, and then if they managed to be hidden, and then they ended up in Schwedenstadt, but it was the last sort of year.
Right.
And they missed, had it been earlier, they'd been sent straight to Auschwitz.
Really? Gosh. Wow.
So it worked for them.
Look, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bribes, yeah, bribes have worked. They have worked over the years. That's one of the things that have been faced with challenges from an enemy that you couldn't settle diplomatically. That was one of the things that Jewish people always came back to. Presents, bribes, being able to make your way out of that issue with money. That's number one. Number two is davening. What have we, when we've been in Tzar, it's not davened. And number three, fighting. If we've had to, when Jews have had to, they've picked up arms and they've joined in battle. You look at Israel. Well, what has the modern state of Israel done? Not only 6-Day War, you got the War of 48, the 6-Day War, the War of, they were all miracles. They were all miracles. There's no question about them, they were miracles. And even then, but the bottom line is that's one of the ways that, that we do about one of the ways we go about with sometimes having these arguments and settling the arguments. Sometimes you have to go to war. It would be nice to live in a utopian world and utopian society where we would never have to go to war. But the honest truth is we don't live in such a society. And as we don't, sometimes we have to go to war. Yeah. Ivor, can I ask you a favor? I'm just getting a bit dry. Could you bring me a cup of water? Thank you so much. Okay, that is the first thing that I want to discuss. Okay, now we move on to the next thing, and they're very interesting. Next pasuk. So we are in chapter 32, verse 5. He tells these messengers, he sends messengers to Esav, and he tells his messenger, Ko someone adonai Esav, so should you say to my master to Esav, Ko amar abdecha Yaakov, so says your servant Yaakov, Im Lavan garti, I have lived, I have sojourned with Lavan, vo'echarat oto, and I have waited until now. Yeah, do you have it?
32.
Chapter 32, verse 5. Yeah, do you have it? What page are we on, Alan, as you always know the page?
170.
170. Thank you. Thanks, Ivor. Very nice of you. Much appreciated.
It's not hot.
That's good.
Oh, man.
Okay. Right. So he says, Im Laman Gati, says Rashi a very interesting comment, and it sounds a very strange comment. There are two strange comments in Rashi, but we're going to deal with only one. I mentioned the one strange comment, but I'm not going to go into it in depth. And it says, Im Lavan Gati, Taryag mitzvah shamati. I kept 613 mitzvahs. The word Garti has 4 letters that can be scrambled up to Taf Reish Yud Gimel. Taf Reish Yud Gimel in Gematria is how much? 613. So 613, he's saying, I live by Lavan, but I didn't learn from his things. I still kept all the mitzvahs. Okay? Now that's strange. Why would that be strange? Why would you think that's strange? Because if I asked you what Esav wanted to hear or not want to hear, what is the one thing Esav could care less about? Mitzvahs, yeah? And Yaakov's keeping the mitzvahs. Yaakov says, and I want you to know that I've kept 613 mitzvahs. Says Esav, I could care less. You didn't keep. Right? That's a separate point. But look at the first part of Rashi, which is even more interesting. Rashi says the following. Im Lavan Garti, I have lived with Lavan. I've sojourned with Lavan. Lo nasesi sar v'choshev, I've not become anybody important. I've not become a minister. Eloger, I was only somebody who sojourned. I was somebody who didn't live in a place. He was only an immigrant. And therefore, eincha kedai lisna osi al birchas avicha. You shouldn't hate me for the blessing that your father gave me. Sheberchani, because he gave me a blessing. Hevigvir la'achecha. Part of the blessing that was given to me by Yitzchak was that I should become in charge of my brothers. And Sharela Niskamabi. Look, it's not happened. It's not happened. Yitzchak gave me a blessing. Nothing happened. On the one hand, he's right. Obviously, Yitzchak gave a blessing and it didn't happen. But do you not feel that's a little disrespectful to Yitzchak as well? What's Yaakov basically saying? Oh, Esav, you really hate me for that blessing that I received that really was meant to be your blessing. Don't worry, it's worthless. Daddy doesn't really know how to give blessings anyway. Yeah? It doesn't sound nice. Where's the kibbud avayim in that? For Yitzchak, for Yaakov to turn around and to say to Esav, nah. And look in the next verse. I'll show you something else. It comes up again in the next verse. The next verse is the following. Vahini shah machamor. And I have now acquired oxen and donkeys, tzayin ve'eved v'shifcha, and sheep and servants and maidservants. And I'm sending this as a message to you to find favor in your eyes. Right? Like, what kind of message is that? What kind of favor are you going to find? By the way, I've got a lot of stuff, and I'm sending you this as a message to find favor in your eyes. Well, why would Esav care that, like, that you got a lot of stuff? I have sheep, and I have cattle, and I have donkeys, and I have servants. Yeah. So I just want to say hi, and I hope you like that. Esav doesn't like Yaakov. The last thing he wants to hear from Yaakov is that Yaakov has been doing well. And Rashi tells us something very interesting. You know what Rashi says? Rashi says, Vayhili shah machamar, I had oxen and donkeys. Says Rashi, Abba Oma, my father said, meaning Yitzchak when he gave the bracha, Mitala shamayim u'mishmane aretz. He told you that you're going to get from the dew of heaven and from the fatness of the land. Zu eina lamin shamayim v'lamin aretz. He promised me good rain, good weather, etc., etc. Not had that. He promised me the fat of the land. Not had that. So what are you saying? You worry about the blessing that I got from Daddy? You're unhappy because you think that I got this blessing that you should have received? Worthless. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I might have some stuff. I might have some grub, but it's really not what Daddy promised me. Daddy promised me great fields, and I have sheep. If you're listening to that, if I said to you, I've been given a promise to become a millionaire in properties. Promise. And what happened? Well, I became a millionaire. In what? I was doing textiles instead. The two Yiddish business, properties or textiles. Became a millionaire from textiles. Would you say, well, I'm glad you didn't make it in properties? You'd be still a millionaire. One way or another, I don't think Esau's going to be so excited about that. And yet, Yaakov is using this as a pawn. Yaakov is sending a message. He's got a choice now, a message to send to his brother to calm him down. So he says, I'm very wealthy, but none of it comes from what Daddy promised me. But you're still wealthy, right? So I was thinking about this today, and I think that the idea over here is the following, and you have to understand Esau. Let us go back to Esau, and let's look at Esau back in Parasha's Toldos. Parasha's Toldos is when we meet Esau for the first time, and Esau comes back from the field, and he's very hungry. So we are in chapter 25, verse 29. I'm sure Alan's going to find the page for us again. Chapter 25, verse 29.
126.
126. Thank you, Alan. 126 in the Art School Chumashim. Vayazed Yaakov Nazid. Yaakov made this lentil soup. Vayavo Esau min hasadeh bo'oyev, and Esau comes from the field and he's very tired. Vayom Esau Yaakov, and Esau says to Yaakov, Haliteini na min ha'adam hazeh, give me from this red stuff, ki ayef anochi, because I'm very tired. Ken kara shema Edom, and that is why we call him Edom. And Yaakov sees his opportunity over here. And Vayom Yaakov, and Yaakov says, Michrach hayom es b'charoska li, I'd like you to sell me like today that exists. I'd like you to sell me your b'chara, your firstborn rights. And Esau says, I feel so tired. I feel like I'm going to die. Who cares about the Bechorah? You want to take it. Here. Gesundheit. Right? Yaakov says, swear to me. And he swears to him and he gives him to eat. And Esau walks out and he says, Yaakov the idiot. A firstborn right, if you think about it, is something so valuable. It's something that you cannot equate with anything. He was going to be the firstborn. He was going to be the one to serve in the temple. He was going to be the one that's going to be close to God. He was going to be the one. Yeah. What did he do? For a lentil soup, he gave him away? You guys ever have lentils? We rarely have lentils. We don't even eat them. Why did you do that? Says, this was my idea. Says nobody. Says me, I guess. The idea is, but many of the Farshim say it over there, is that Esau lives for the here and now. Esau is not a man that lives for the future. Have you ever met people like that? I know some people like that. They live for the here and now. And it's a shame because I had a recent conversation with somebody, and he said to me, Rabbi, over the last 10 years, I've probably thrown away probably 500,000 pounds on all sorts of extras. Here's a guy who does well. He does well in his business, but he has a problem with money. And his problem is that he spends more than he makes. So if you make 100, he'll spend 150. He makes 150, he'll spend 200. He makes 200, he'll spend 250. Right? Now, 200 is a phenomenal salary. It's a great salary. I mean, it's not phenomenal. You mean like I'm sure you can pull it much higher, but most people I know with 200,000 pounds can live very, very well. But you know what? If he makes 200,000 pounds, he's going on a cruise, and he's buying himself the newest Mercedes. And then after that, he buys his wife the nicest Range Rover. And then they redo their entire kitchen, even though they've just done the kitchen 5 years ago. And he's throwing money. He's throwing it and throwing it and throwing it. And if he had any seichel, what would he do? Save some money. Set it aside. So today, when he's got problems in Parnasa and things don't work as well anymore for him, he turns around and says, it's unfair. Like, really? God sent you all that plenty. You threw it out at rubbish. You have nothing to show. The problem is sometimes like a lot of these things, you have nothing to show for it, right? If you leased a car, but you didn't want to lease just I'm not going to lease a Hyundai. I'm not leasing a Ford. I'm leasing a BMW, and not any BMW, a 5 Series, a 7 Series, right? Okay, so you've leased your car. What have you done now? So how much is it going to cost you to lease a 7 Series? £600-700 a month? Is that what it's going to cost you a month? I don't know. Let's say £600 a month. You have it for 2 years. That's £15,000 down the drain. Because after the 2 years, what happens? Goes back. Finish. You got no car, right? You're better off buying a car that might be, you can buy the same 7 Series that's just a few years old for the same £15,000-20,000 that you just thrown away on driving a brand new one that doesn't belong to you anymore. Yeah? You go on holidays. Okay, so people say you go on a holiday, you have nice memories. That's true. But you don't have to splash £50,000 on going on holiday. Yeah, you have to go to the most expensive place in the world, then go to the most expensive hotel in the world, take your kids on every single expensive ride that there is. You have to go to Dubai and stay in the in the Jumeirah Palm. You don't. You can go somewhere else. There are cheap places to go. You can even go nice places in England. Believe it or not, you don't even have to travel abroad to find nice things. England's got a beautiful place with many, many nice places to go and many nice hotels and many great attractions. But people feel, I need to go abroad. I need to give my family lots of stuff and I need to make it good for them and nice for them. Is a guy who lives in the here and now. He's throwing away his money instead of saying to himself, I made £200,000. Okay, I'm not saying live on £30,000 and put £170,000 away. I understand you made £200,000, you want to live it up. Fine, say to yourself, I'm putting away £25,000, £50,000. You can't live nicely on £150,000. You cannot drive a nice car for that amount of money. You cannot still go on a holiday. You have to throw away an extra £50,000, an extra £70,000, £20,000 more than what you had that you made that year. But some people are ill, and some people can't do it. If this person, he has an illness, never, he can't manage it, right? But it's the living the here and now. It's not living for the future. It's not thinking, oh, you know what? One day I'm going to retire. One day I'm not going to want to work anymore. What am I going to say then? I don't have a lot of money set aside because I went on too many holidays. That's stupid. That's not clever. But Esav lives for the here and now. Esav says, if it's now, if it's here, it's real. If it's in the future, airy-fairy. Might come, might not come. Maybe there will be a blessing, maybe there won't be a blessing. I don't trust any of this stuff. Yeah? Says Yaakov Avinu to Esav. If you ask Yaakov Avinu, did Yaakov believe in the power of the blessing of his father? Absolutely. There's no question about it that Yaakov Avinu knew. My father Yitzchak, who was the tzaddik of the generation, gave me a blessing saying that I will get X, Y, and Z. There is no question I will be able to have those things. Yaakov has been given that as a promise from Yitzchak. But Yaakov says to himself, I might not get it today, and I might not get it next year, and I might not even get it in the next decade. I might have to wait 50 years, and it might not even come to me. It might come only to my children. But I am certain that blessing is going to come to me. Esav lives for the here and now. And so Esav says, if it's here, if it's now, it's real. If I don't see it now, then as far as I'm concerned, it's worthless. Says Yaakov to Esav, look, let me explain this to you. Look at me. I live by Lavan. Daddy said that I was meant to be this great, important person. Instead, I lived like some kind of cheap labor at Lavan's house. And Daddy promised me fields, and Daddy promised me rain, and all I have is cattle. As far as you're concerned, this never happened. As far as you're concerned, this blessing is a, bracha levatala. It's worthless. So there's no point in hating me for it. And that's why it says, I'm sending you this message so I can find favor in your eyes. I want you to understand that the blessing that you're hounding me for didn't come true as far as you're concerned. And therefore, there's no point in being upset and angry with me. It's not happening. It's worthless. Not because Yaakov feels it's worthless. Yaakov knows it's not worthless. Yaakov knows one day I will get richly rewarded for that blessing that my father gave me. But Esav looks for the here and now, and Esav looks at me and he goes, where's all your money? He goes, well, it's not what Daddy told me. I made money a different way. Okay, so that's a different thing. That's entirely different. That's not the same. So that's what he's saying over here. Yes, I have sheep. Yes, I have cattle. But that's not the promise that you're upset about. And as long as it's not the promise you're upset about, as long as I can show you that the prophecy or that blessing that you're upset about was never fulfilled, then as far as you're concerned, there's nothing to hate me for. Because it's not now. It's not here. Okay? We'll mention one more thing. And that is the following. Yaakov keeps going and he prays to Hashem. I mentioned this not here in a different share, but I mentioned this a few weeks ago. This is chapter 32, verse 11. Yaakov says, back to that page, next page. Roger, what page is that? 172. 172, thank you, Alan. Right? Yaakov says, Katonti mikol chasadim mikol hamet. I have become small from all the chesed, from all the goodness, from all the good things that God has given me, and from all the truth. Asher sisas avdecha, what you've done to your servant. Kivem makli, with my stick, with my stick, that's all I had. I crossed over the Jordan. And now I have so many people that I have to split myself into two camps to be able to survive. You've really kept so much. And he's saying, I feel almost humbled. I feel small when I look at everything that you've done for me. What is chesed and what is emes? This is an important Dvar Torah. This is an important thing to know and an important thing to realize. Emes means truth. Chesed means what? If I do someone a chesed, you do someone a kindness. Correct. Is a kindness a truth? Or is a kindness above and beyond something that is a truth? Do you understand what I'm saying? When I speak about truth, when I speak about justice, what does justice mean? If I say it is just and right that I should receive whatever it might be, fill in the blank. What am I saying there? I deserve it. Yeah? I'm deserving. I've worked, let's say I've worked for you. Okay? I'll give you this is a good example. Let's say I've worked for you. So Leon, I've done some work at your building site. Okay? And I finished my work and you're very happy with my work. And I charge £10 an hour and I've worked for you half a day, so it's £40. Yeah, 4 hours, half a day of work. I'm not sure if that's half a day of work for everybody, but let's say an 8-hour work day, 4 hours. So I come to you and you say, Rabbi, that was excellent. Here's 50 quid. Right? 40 pounds of that is emes. Right? I've earned that. 10 is your kindness. 10 is the chesed that you're giving me. 10 is the
ex-gratia, they call it, don't they?
Is it really?
Gratia in
yeah, or gratitude. They used to say, yeah. When you give a tip, what's the tip there for? Why are people giving a tip? And there's often the fight. I've heard this more than once. The argument. I think they've had call-in shows on the radio about should people be forced to tip, or should tips become part of the way restaurants charge? And some people say yeah, and some people say absolutely not. What right do you have? You can come in. What right? Why are you making the decision for me? What are you saying? I have to tip somebody? What if I went to a restaurant and the service was awful? I don't want to give them 10, 15% of my meal. I don't think it's fair. I don't think I should have to cough up any more money. It was bad enough that I had to spend all that money to be treated like rubbish. I'm not giving you another 10%. Some people say, no, absolutely not. This is, it's part of the way they structure the salary of the people that are waiters, and therefore they deserve that money.
We're making chesed into emes then, aren't we? There.
But I don't think it's fair. I think a tip is something that you cannot insist on. Personally, that's my opinion. There are people that feel, yes, you can insist that people should give tips, etc., etc. But be that as may, I don't want to get into people's tipping habits. And then some people are more gracious tippers and some people are less. I've been to places when a person's been happy, he's put in 15 or 20% also. Because it's not been so expensive and he can afford it, and he put in a bit extra. I remember I once went with somebody. We were going to a restaurant. We were in Mea Shearim, we got into a taxi, and we got out of the taxi, it was 14 shekels. It was a short taxi ride, and it's 15 years ago. So nowadays, for 14 shekels, you can't even drive 300 meters. But in the olden days, for 14 shekels, you could get somewhere. And we got out, and he gave him a £20 note. And the guy goes, can I give you change? He goes, no, keep it. I turned around and said, 20 shekels? It was a 14 shekel ride, 20 shekels. He said, and this is in the days the shekel was 8.5. He said, look, I got into the taxi. I didn't have to fight with the guy. I didn't have to ask him to turn on the meter. He was strapped in. He wasn't smoking. He allowed us comfortable, he put on the air conditioning when we wanted it to. He gave us a comfortable ride. How much did I give him? 6 shekels. 6 shekels is 75p. I wouldn't think twice about 75 pence in the UK as a tip. If you gave someone a tip of 75p, would you be considered a gracious tipper? Not at all. So it says, I gave him, yeah, you're right, it might be 50% of what the original taxi fare was. But it's 75p. Don't be stupid about it. I learned a big lesson there. You have to think differently. Think out of the box. The guy was nice. I'm willing to give you extra money. It's not a problem. But that's chesed. Emes is the taxi fare, whatever it is, you got to pay it. That you've earned. I've driven you somewhere, you got to pay me for it. I've worked for you, you got to pay me that. So Yaakov says there are 2 things. There's chesed and there's emes. God promised Yaakov certain things. And because God promised Yaakov certain things, God had to deliver on those promises. There was no way that God could renege on that. He says, Yaakov, I'll take care of you and I'll make sure that everything's okay and I'll bring you back to your home. There's certain things that's emes. Once God has promised that he's going to do these things for Yaakov Avinu, there was no way that Yaakov was going to be taken away from him. Because God promised it. And then there was a lot extra. There was the chesed. There was the extra bits and pieces that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had given Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov says, I am humbled by both your chesed, your kindness, and emes, by your truth. I'm humbled by both. I'm humbled by the fact that you gave me what I deserve. I'm even humbled by that. But I'm humbled also you gave me things beyond what I deserve. Right? That's one translation. The other translation is that this is brought in the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim, Rav Chaim Ben Attar, says the following. He says, every chesed, by the way, for example, when you bury somebody, if you're part of the Chaver Kedisha, it's called what? Chesed Shel Emes. It's a chesed of truth. Why is it chesed Shel Emes? Why do we call it that? Why is it called chesed Shel Emes?
Because you can't repay it.
Because you can never repay it, right? If somebody helps a dead person, that's called a chesed Shel Emes. The guy's dead. He can't do anything for you. Maybe in Shemayim he can intercede for you, but really, here on this world, in physical sense, you're doing something with a person who has passed away, and he has no way of paying you back. So it's known as chesed shel emes. A true chesed, a chesed that has almost no boundaries, because there's no way of getting anything back. Right? Says the Orach Chaim, anything, but anything that you get from Hashem is a chesed shel emes. Is something, because let's say, let me ask you a question. What could you give God?
You don't. There's nothing he needs.
There's nothing he needs. By definition, what's God by definition? Infinite. Because if he wasn't infinite, he wouldn't be God. Right? If God was limited, he wouldn't be God. And therefore, he's got no needs. And if he's got no needs, it means that no matter what I do for him, even the mitzvahs that I do, can I turn around to God and say, God, I put on tefillin today. What's your whoop-de-doo? What do you want me to do? Backflips? You can't really pay God for anything that he gives us. We can do the mitzvahs and do our best to show that we want to give something to God. But the bottom line is we just don't have a currency to be able to give God anything. We don't have anything in this world, and God being infinite, there is nothing we can really give God where God goes, ooh, thank you, I needed that. Right? And so therefore, any chesed, any goodness and any kindness that God does for us, by definition will be a chesed shel emes, will be a chesed that cannot be repaid. In the case of the dead person, it's a chesed that cannot be repaid because he's passed away. In our case, we're very much alive. But there's nothing that we as mortal human beings can do that can give God anything. Because he is infinite. And therefore, that's what it says, Mikol HaChasadim, Mikol HaEmes. That's the other way of understanding it. That God gives us chesed and emes, and God, everything He gives us is chesed shel emes. Everything He gives us is something that we cannot repay Him, something that we cannot in any way give back to Him. So that's two understandings in chesed shel emes. There is more to say, or a lot more to say on this week's Parasha. I do apologize because of Parents' Evening. We're cutting it 5 minutes short. Thank you very much for those who are here. Thank you to those who came and joined us live. Please like and share so that other people can enjoy the share as well. Thank you.
Thank you.